Our This Week in XR podcast is sponsored by our friends at Zapper, the world's leading augmented reality platform and creative studio, with over 11 years of experience working with the world's biggest brands through Zapper Creative Studio. Zapper also has an award-winning web AR platform, ZapWorks, that lets you create your own mobile AR magic. Finally, check out their Zap Box, the most affordable mixed reality headset on the planet. Start creating AR over at zap.works or talk to them about your next AR project at zapper.com. Good morning, everybody. I'm Charlie Fink here with This Week in XR with my partners in crime, Ted Schilowitz and Roni Abovitz. We are live from South by Southwest. I'm at the Fairmont, where the interactive exhibition is being hurriedly put together by panicked artists. I've got with me Blake Kammerdiener, the head programmer for South by Southwest, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's going to be going on here this week. But before we do, let's get to the news, because there's some interesting stories today, aside from the excitement about the opening of South by Southwest. First of all, today is the day that Altspace goes dark. I remember the day that Altspace went live, and I remember the first event in Altspace with Reggie Watts, the comedian, and it was a complete fail, and everybody got kicked out of the room. And instead, in the waiting room, we had this incredible vibe and conversation without Reggie. But they got their shit together, but they never had a business plan. And Microsoft kind of bailed them out when they couldn't get financing during VR winter, and they had no business plan either. They did a good job with Altspace, but no business plan. Things get tough. If you're not nailed to revenue, you're going overboard. And that's what happened. So it's a shame. They were pioneers, but with so much free competition, there really was no way for them to charge people, and they had no other business queued up. So RIP Altspace VR.
Charlie, do you think there's an analog to this in traditional television or traditional media? Do you, or Roni, or maybe Blake, do we think that there's a touch point, like there's a learning mode that goes further back than just the VR sort of curve around companies? Roni shaking his head.
This is like a club going out of business, and then a week later another club opens up, like CBGB's, and then something else pops open. So I feel like the idea behind Altspace is not going to die, but that particular club had its moment, and I think it kind of feels like that, like clubs coming and going. Right. These VR XR spaces will probably feel like that. It's very hard to survive forever.
Well, and to your point, VR chat has not died. I don't know if it's thriving, but it certainly got capital, and Rec Room seems to be thriving. Right. So, different iterations of the same idea.
But again, those are sites that have a more substantial business model, although I can't tell you what VR Chat's business model is, but presumably it's more, they've raised more money than Altspace could. So, these guys were pioneers, and I think that's really what everybody kind of feels nostalgic about. Even though it's happening predictably, it's still, there was some really great work done by some good people in our community, and you hate to see something with so many people are passionate about it. It's a shame to see it go down, but it's a business. It's not, people on the internet are getting used to paying for content, and XR is going to be the same way, because no one can do this for free forever.
Well, I also think it's a cautionary tale of things attempting to grow too fast as opposed to growing organically. Charlie, you and I have talked about this on the podcast off and on, right? That a company like Microsoft will take this on because of the fervor around a sector or a piece of this puzzle that they feel like they have to be involved in. But then their corporate acumen starts to apply to it, which actually doesn't make sense for growing something organically. And I was thinking, when you're talking about this, I was thinking about it through a lens of a really interesting documentary I watched that was on CNN a couple weeks ago, called the documentary about HQ Trivia, and just its meteoric rise. And it has some very, very tragic outcome, including one of the founders dying of potential drug overdose. But it was a really good idea that should have just been left to cultivate organically and nicely, and instead it becomes this VC fervor and this investment monster, and suddenly everybody thinks it's going to be worth $1 bajillion overnight, and it implodes on itself. And these are things we see over and over again in our business, right?
There's an old saying in Silicon Valley, you guys have probably heard it. The pioneers are the ones by the side of the trail with arrows in their backs. What you want to be is a settler, saluting them as you go past to found the first bank.
Well, that is the Apple thesis over and over again. Apple does not go first. Apple waits, learns, and goes when they're ready, right?
Well, they used to go first, right, in the early days.
I would argue that Apple has really, with very, very limited exceptions, ever gone first in a sector. It's really hard to say they built the first of this. There was always someone before them.
Even like the Apple One or the Mac.
They're great about
Blake's
getting
Blake's jumping in.
they're great about
jumping
getting
in.
the buzz going though, right? They'll get the buzz going early and then hold out while everybody's like, Apple's doing this, and then they jump in, and they'll just ride the buzz train for a while, and then they'll come out.
That's
Pull
right.
your seat closer to me.
Come on in,
so that
Blake.
people can see you. So what else? Silicon Valley Bank. What the hell, Roni?
Look, it feels like 2008 real estate a little bit.
Yeah.
Like the venture debt thing feels fuzzy and floppy and was probably anticipatable, but it's causing a ripple freak out. And I'm hearing about like startups that were banking their capital with them.
Yes.
Which is like insane. Why
I know,
would you
because
not bank it with a really solid institution? Like, so that's the weird part. Like, what were those CFOs thinking? Don't do that.
Well,
So
because
let me just say,
Silicon Valley
in terms of a wildfire, the Dow is up 109 points right now, and the Nasdaq's up 30. So there hasn't been contagion yet, the way there was with Lehman. So maybe we're going to dodge a bullet again.
But in my world and in a lot of people's worlds in our sector, Silicon Valley Bank built the illusion of stability, right? Like, yes, we all know underpinnings, they're an investment bank. They're not a traditional banking instrument. But the branding, their engine, their marketing, and their delivery of that messaging is Silicon Valley Bank felt like a bank. I mean, there's the word
the name
in their name, right?
Yes. No, the name, like you felt if Silicon Valley meant something, the bank of Silicon Valley. So there's a bit of a branding problem for the whole valley now, which is like, can't lose your branded bank, going down the toilet.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about one more news topic, and then we'll get to South by. Pimax just raised $30 million, bringing their total haul to 69 million. Ted, am I wrong in thinking Pimax is a budget Varjo?
Well, I think it's a good way to describe it, right? It is high resolution. They're using some economies of scale. They're raising money. It's not super exotic, but it's exotic-ish, right? I mean, for what Blake does, the idea of being able to show super, super high res in an LBE environment is really, really interesting. The bigger question is, what is the right resolution for these kind of sectors? And, does certain industrial use cases and things where you need ultra high res and an environment matters, right? I mean, it's the same reason as we keep moving the resolution curve up. Early started with film, with IMAX film, right? It's the same idea. Is like, I want the maximum amount of resolution on the display that I can get. And this is one of the companies that's doing that. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. They did a press day in LA for press and bloggers and influencer types. And so I saw that. The thing they had that really interested me was this thing that was like a smartphone that they call Portal, which will run Steam games.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a small Steam Deck. So I think it's, number one, interesting that somebody is making another one of those small portable Steam-based devices, and doesn't necessarily have anything to do with VR. Just a really high resolution screen for playing games. So mobile games are, $60 billion business.
Money, man.
So anyway, well, let's get to Blake. Blake, thank you so much for setting up this venue for us to do the podcast here in Austin. I took the the 6 a.m. flight out of Newark to get here. I'm feeling just a little disoriented about my time zone and about the amount of sleep I'm going.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Me too.
I
me
was
too.
good. That's exactly where I was going.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were building till late last night. We putting together the XR Experience show right now, downstairs from where we're at, and upstairs actually, as well as we have our panel session rooms going on, and then we build film theaters also. The XR Experience is part of our film and TV festival, and so we help produce that as well.
So Blake's purview here is not exclusively XR.
Well, we are all excited. Roni, I guess, will be remote, but Charlie and I will be there in person. I'm flying out tomorrow, and
Excited to get you back here, Ted. It's been too long. Roni, I'm waiting. We need you back here also. It's been, I believe you've been to South by, right? It's just been a while, right?
The last time I was at South by, my band played South by, and that's where I started Magic Leaps. So it's been a few years.
Yeah, amazing. Well, we're gonna get you back here again soon. I promise.
That'd be great.
They've stuck me on a couple of panels and a featured keynote talking about this whole trajectory, Charlie, that you and I and Roni are on. So that.
Oh, really? When is your thing? I'll go.
As you're talking, I'll pull up my schedule. So hold on, I'll tell you.
The problem is I was fortunate enough to be selected for the jury of the XR exhibition. And so that means that on Saturday and Sunday, your time isn't really your
we're gonna run them ragged through the headset.
So we'll see what it's like to do 6 hours of VR consecutively.
I'm doing
it's a little disadvantage for the guys who go last.
Yeah, right.
I'm doing something at, I think, 10 a.m. Texas time on Sunday. And the other one, I think it's either Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll keep looking.
Oh, Tuesday or Wednesday is definitely possible because I'm free after Monday morning's deliberations.
I think it's Wednesday. I think it's actually Wednesday, 9 a.m. or something. It's a morning thing. So we'll all be a little
cool.
yet. Yeah,
that's great. So Blake, just give us a rundown on what we're going to see this year and what people who are on their way here right now, as Ted is, should be excited about.
Yeah, we have a really amazing lineup this year. It's like when you're building the lineup, you never really know how it's gonna
sure, because as a festival, right, you take what the year gives you.
Absolutely, 100%. We build our program off of an open submission platform that we host. So we're really diving into this open submission platform to our submissions and like exploring what the year has to offer, right? And this year it lined out very exciting. So of course, metaverse is a huge component of the conversation, and so we're going to have stuff online in metaverse platforms, but we'll also have like a handful of social spaces being exhibited on the floor here at the Fairmont.
So let me just stop you there.
Yeah.
So people who are listening to this show this afternoon and during the course of South by Southwest, they can see some of these experiences from home.
That's a really great clarification point. So we have a section called our XR Experience Special Events. Those specifically are online only. Those are in different metaverse platforms, and they're like music event-based performances that you'll find. And like some are in many different formats, right? So it's like we have some showcasing volumetric captured music events. We have some that are more avatar based, and then we're going to have some that are reflecting a live performance in some format. I'm not going to say that it's like a stream, but it's a Mirror Shot's going to be here again. We're going to have Wristband, their metaverse platform, going on and coinciding with their performance that's live here on Tuesday night.
I'm an advisor to that company. I'm very excited about what they're doing. It's funny, Rec Room is having a music festival this weekend. Not to digress from South by Southwest, but it seems like music is going to play a very big part in the early metaverse. And I think the reason for that is synchronicity, right? That the metaverse is kind of a return to synchronicity. We shed it in the 90s because all of us had lived under the tyranny of synchronicity for our entire lives. So when we could be asynchronous, it was very exciting and convenient. But now, 30 years later, I think people crave synchronicity. And I think the idea of watching the World Cup with everybody in the world at the same time,
Yeah,
or watching
absolutely.
the Super Bowl, or going to a concert and being virtually present with other people,
Yep.
it is suddenly something people are really excited about doing.
Yeah, and like giving that opportunity for people who are both here experiencing something live, like watching, like in the room watching Miro shot, and then also being able to connect in certain ways with that online audience who couldn't make it here to Austin is, I think, an exciting part of that format.
Last year, Miro Shot did a mini show. I think they had probably a 60-seat theater, and they only did like 3 songs.
Yeah.
But you watched the songs wearing a modified old Samsung gear.
Yeah.
And with the lights out and the stage show going on, at times I found myself taking off the headset to make sure that I wasn't in see-through, because it felt like, you know, I was seeing the show even though I was in VR. It was very, very original, compelling
The
experience.
fact that they were able to do that with with an old Gear VR, like, blew my mind.
Yeah, that was a
absolutely
pretty
loved it.
neat trick. So what else? What
But
else?
so I'll piggyback off that, is that we have a lot of several other projects related to music-based projects, right? So we have ESPA, they're doing a concert. That project's produced by the company that did the Megan Thee Stallion project last year. So that ESPA is a popular K-pop band, and so that'll be really exciting. We have Whipped Cream the Dark, which is a volumetric capture music video, and that is produced out of Canada, out of Vancouver. So that's another exciting music act that's going to be here. It's just like playing with that music video format, giving you it's 6 DOF. It's it moves in and out of whether you're total free roam or it's bringing you through the music. It's really great, really great. And then let's see here. So let me go down. We're going to have some mixed reality projects, games. We have Eggscape, we have Yuki.
So when you say mixed reality, it's combining pass-through and VR?
Correct, yes.
Nice.
And those are going to be really fun. There's a lot of there's several, like we have Body of Mine is a project that is utilizing like full body tracking, right? So we have projects using full body tracking. We have a project called Temporal Worlds, which is they had made a jacket with like a bespoke for this project with 42 haptic points in it. So and it's just like a beautiful little point cloud tour around an area in Berlin. It's gorgeous, meditative piece at the same time. It's really, really great.
So have you seen all of these, or have some of them been presented to you through video or other means? Scouts or somebody else recommending it?
No, I have seen all of these in some form or fashion. I always joke that I never see a finished product, because like everything I see is in an experimental state when I get to it. And most of the projects are working to the last second to really finish up.
We were just talking about that in the green room here before we got online. There is nothing really of artistic quality that is not finished in a mad rush. And no matter how well you prepare, no matter how many times you say it's not going to be that way this year, it always is, because if you've attracted the right artists, and if South by is doing the right thing, everybody is pushing to put out the best possible product at the last possible minute they want, every minute to perfect it and refine it. And there's just no way. That's just the way creating things is. And
VR is really interesting, or immersive projects in general, where sometimes they don't come together until they come together, right? So you might be only able to see like a vertical slice or along with maybe scripts or components like that, but it really, a lot of the time it doesn't gel until it gels, and that's at the very, very, like you said, last second. I think I always consider it my job to see through that experimental state to imagine what it's going to be like at the end, and generally I think I can kind of get there,
And we make a creativity argument that creativity lives in what we refer to as a gaseous state, meaning it will fill up the amount of time and space you give it.
Yeah.
So if you have a deadline, right? If you're in the news creative world, that you have to deliver, Charlie, you know this because you work in the news business, you have to deliver your story and you have to get it out, on when you get it out on to make sure it hits the wire at the time. That's it, right? But if I said, oh, by the way, Charlie, we're going to work on, the Charlie Fink Forbes journey, and it's a 4-year journey. Guess what? 3 years and 355 days into it, you'd still be doing the finishing polishes on it, right? And it's just creativity just lives in that artificial, like you're going to give it as much time as you possibly have to tweak, play with it, refine it. And if you tell somebody you got 2 weeks, they'll do it in 2 weeks. If you tell somebody they've got 2 years, but the project really should only take 6 months, it will take 2 years. And
That's absolutely
So,
true.
Roni, this sounds like the story of Magic Leap.
Yes.
Am I your guys' punching bag?
No, because I know that you guys did the same thing. You pushed to the last minute to make everything as good as it could possibly be.
We it was more than a gaseous state. Like I think creativity is infinite, and there's always like the next thing you're trying to put in. But the good thing is when you have really hardcore like program project people who are like, and that's it. So that helped a lot. That helped a lot.
Yeah. You have to have that strong producer right there, right, to tell you exactly that, right?
You need to recognize you need those people around you.
Right, and you have to trust them.
So Blake, I have a question for you strategically about, South by is a massive festival. It has been successful for a long time. It is really a lightning rod of a lot of festivals, because I think out of all the festivals and all of the different dynamics of where people gather for creativity, it is the one that takes itself the least seriously. That is my take on it. It understands what it is. It understands that. Yeah, exactly. It should be fun first. Yeah. It is not ostentatious. It is not bougie. It is not all the things that other festivals often find themselves leaning into. Even the sponsors are cooler. Like just everything is cool, right? At South by, which is kind of why we love South by. And I'm curious because you guys seem to be holding water on the idea that virtual reality, mixed reality, these emerging visual platforms are still a really important part of the creative ecosystem that ends up leading to various commercial outcomes, years later or way outside of the festival circuit, where other festivals seem to be spooked a little bit by it now. They're kind of leaning away from it. They're like, well, we're just going to go back to our traditional knitting. We're not going to do VR. We're not going to do emerging. We're not going to have the new. And I'm being nice because I'm not referring to specifically what I'm talking about, but it is a trend, right? That a lot are sort of leaning away from it. Maybe they'll come back to it. But other than, of course, the reality of the pandemic, South by has never left that spirit of innovation and trying new things. What's your take on it? Why is that happening more in Austin than other festivals around the world?
I always lean into the idea that, and this is like specific, not just for the VR component or the immersive component, but applies to it, is that it has to do with our audience, right? Our audience is diverse across all different creative industries. And I think that when you get that mixture, which is not present everywhere or anywhere else in the world, honestly, at one time in one place, they are more apt to explore. And for that, like, they're all interested in immersive. And so we've been a place that all these different types of artists can come and explore and get excited, and then meet new collaborators, and then it's like an ecosystem that grows and rolls. And so I find that it has been, and I hear this from creators as well, is that they're more successful on a business level and on a networking level than other places, and that all has to do with our audience and their willingness to explore different things here at South by than they are at other places.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and I may be wrong about this, but didn't some of the beginnings of Meow Wolf's showing pieces and parts of their creative journey start at South by and then end up in a fairly successful commercial outcome?
We were able to showcase their first VR project, the first component of their first VR project.
I did that.
And they like built up that crazy rig. It was amazing.
Oh, yeah, you start out in it, you're a mouse.
Yeah,
so exactly. They VR does scale so well. Yeah. So when you're a mouse and the bed is like enormous, it's like a building.
Amazing. It was so much fun.
That's a really good example of South by being a really good incubator for creativity. And then, these things do emerge into a valuable part of the ecosystem, both creatively and economically, which is interesting.
Ted, can I tell you a quick South by story? So when we were there, we had a booth in the tech section, It was the first public Magic Leap thing anywhere. It was nobody really knew what was going on. And my wife brought a toaster oven and she was baking chocolate chip cookies, which attracted everyone to the booth.
That was
They
so
didn't
smart.
care. They
So
didn't care about
smart.
anything we were talking about
They
like
wanted
the
the
immersive
cookies.
world. No one, it was just cookies. So that was
worked too
like
well.
a weird marketing mistake. Then the best thing that happened was the band Guar, if you guys know, with all
Oh
the
yeah,
yeah,
sure.
of course.
Oh, yeah.
they
Totally
showed up
with
and they
Guar.
have all these pictures of Guar in the very first Magic Leap booth. And then later that week, we were in the music thing, so we played 2 or 3 shows, like, you know, kind of the really not the best venues, but it was still super fun. And I was like, where else can you do something crazy like that? Where like you've got chocolate chip cookies, Guar invades your booth, and then you play a bunch of weird little things, you know, like down the main streets. So
Yeah,
it was
super
great.
good. Love it.
That's the serendipity of South by. I also think
Yeah.
that for whatever reason, as opposed to others, you know, CES is so big that, you know, VR is kind of subsumed by it a little bit, or XR is subsumed by it. As Ted said, other festivals aren't as big, and they don't attract the community the way that South by does. I mean, I think everybody I know in the industry is going to be here.
I'm
this
so
week.
excited about it. It's gonna be so
Every
fun.
indicate, you know, because last year was kind of a sad, empty year, even though the VR selection was excellent. But there was, I think it was the Omicron surge, right before, and it scared off everybody. Canceled,
Yeah.
and so you showed up, and it was like everything was like 40% of what it was the last time we were here in 2019.
And it was really funny because people, that's right about the exact numbers, honestly. But people were like, it's kind of like the really old days when you could get in to see stuff. And so I was like,
True.
you know, there's positives. Right?
It's true. I just like, I walked in off the street and saw Spoon.
Yeah.
I'm like, who's playing here? Oh, it's Spoon. I'm like, can I go in? They're like, yeah. They just walked in and saw it, you know, which is normally, you know, you'd be standing out on the street trying to hear what's going on in there. You know, the other thing is, of course, restaurant reservations, which are always so brutal.
Impossible.
So this year, I think we're going to have a return to the madness of 2019, which has its own excitement. But I think the community is turning out for this, and that's really what makes it so special.
Are you going to go to the bridge to see the bats?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know, the Congress, we have the largest community of bridge living bats. There's like 3 million of them or something like that. They live under the Congress Bridge and they come out
Charlie, you have to see
Done
the
it, Charlie?
sunset.
You kidding? I've been coming to South by Southwest all these years, and I've never heard about the bats.
Charlie, it is the most insane thing. You wait there and then they all take off like a funnel cloud. And it's like an amazing effect from like Weta and Lord of the Rings or something.
Yeah,
When
it's amazing.
At sunset every day.
At sunset?
Yeah.
Oh,
You
I know
must
what I'm
see
doing
it.
today.
It's crazy. It's like you've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, they come out at dusk because the feeding time is right when the sun goes down, and all the little mites and all the little bugs are out in the air on the water. And like there's a little kind of radio signal. One of them goes, and then you see like 10, and then a minute later, there's like 100 million of them all pouring out from the bridge. It's
When I
great.
saw that, I realized Austin has that like weird magic spot on earth vibe. Like, what is going on here? And is it indicated there's something special about the location, the time, the temperature? I don't know what it is, but when you see those bats take off, you're like, this is very Harry Potter. You got to see it, Charlie.
Yeah, we'll go, Charlie. I promise. Don't
All
worry.
right.
We'll go.
It's on my list. I actually have time this afternoon. So I saved this afternoon because I thought I was going to be, you know, doing more stuff, but the programming team has got me on Saturday and Sunday really compressed.
Yeah.
So which is great because it leaves me time to go see bats and do other things. So Blake, before we sign off here, what else should people know at home about this year's selection? He can't play favorites.
I
This is
know.
the problem. He can't say, I'm really excited about this one, especially
This
since I'm on the
selection is
dirt.
this selection is what I'm excited about, right? It actually really is an extremely
So
strong
how many
selection.
experiences total
We have,
putting in?
there's 36, including the 4 online. So there's 32 in-house. There's one really large one upstairs that's not on the main floor. It's on the 5th floor, and it's In Pursuit of Repetitive Beats. And so it's a multiplayer immersive documentary about the rave scene in 88, 89 in the UK, and it's super fun, super exciting. And it's like they needed a big room, and so it's in a big room. So there's I think 8 people can do it at a time or something like that. It's a lot of fun. And then yeah, there's some other strange things. So we'll have Symbiosis from the Netherlands, which are full. There's 6 different projects in there. They all have these full body suits. There's like smell and air compressors and crazy looking. There's one with like cheeks or something on the head attached to the headset. It's nuts.
So that's great. That seems like something that is, one of the things about the XR at South by, like we were talking about Meow Wolf. It's like sort of a location-based, one time only. This is it. You're never going to see it in this form again.
Right. And well, they'll hope that you'll see it somewhere, but you gotta go to it. You gotta go to it. And then let's see here. There's a really interesting one called Figural Bodies, which is like a research project from Goldsmiths University in London about amorphous avatars, and then like avatars like kind of create. It's really based around accessibility and the feeling of accessibility for anyone being able to kind of be in this like different form. And they're doing a couple of live performances where they'll have dancers in the UK and a dancer here on the floor where they'll be dancing together, syncing up, and there'll be some screens so that you can see what's happening. Some people can be in VR. It's going to be a lot of fun and very interesting. Let's see here.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's great. So, I mean, and then, we have a hot list in our spotlight section, just from projects that have been, really exciting and around the circuit. Some which are like, I think, been flown under the radar. There's a project called Lou, which is like this 2-part project about a child with autism and what that experience is like. And you get to like kind of see it through the eyes of the parents and through the eyes of the child. And he was a part and involved in like creating the story. It's very touching, very exciting, and really allows you to experience something new that you might not be able to fully understand and will now be able to understand a little bit more better, I think.
Plus, by the way, you're outside of your realm. You're premiering the William Shatner documentary, which I've seen bits and pieces of, and it is
that's going to be exciting.
And I presume he's coming in person. He did his shtick at Comic-Con.
He will be here, and he will be arriving in true Shatner form. So we'll
fly in on the Priceline helicopter.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be so much fun. Yeah, the film lineup this year is absolutely phenomenal on the across the board. So the film, it's the Film and TV Festival. We have made an update to our name, a change this year, and have just to reflect the work we've already been doing, because we've been showcasing TV projects or episodic content for a long time now. So.
Well, and speaking of TV, I will push a little moment of an aside to give props to our friends and colleagues at HBO for making what I believe is the best piece of episodic television of the year, and maybe for a long time. You probably know what I'm talking about. It's the episode 3 of The Last of Us, their series. And for anybody that's listening, if you should watch that series. It is remarkable. It is the best thing that's ever come out of a video game in my entire life of watching the attempts of video games to move to other forms of media. And the 3rd episode is a wondrous piece of content that fires on all cylinders and is some of the best television I've ever seen. So I'm just putting it out there.
I liked it. I like the series. I think it's really good.
It's one of the only things I've been watching, like, because I don't really get to participate in like current stuff during this time of the year, as I'm like focused on the event. But it's the one thing I've been watching every week.
Because Sony thanks you from across the line.
Across the other studio infrastructure. Naughty Dog thanks us a lot. But I'm telling you, it is well deserved. It is a remarkably good, remarkably well-crafted piece of content. I just give them huge props for taking that risk and putting it out and making something really important. So it's just worth seeing.
Well, I think we've gone through our whole allotment of show. Ted, I'm looking forward to seeing you. Roni, I wish you were here. I think I'm so excited, so excited about South by. And for those of you at home, we'll see you next Friday with a wrap up of our experience here. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Looking forward to some good barbecue. See you guys soon.
See you soon.